Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Good middle of the night. Hope you're all safe and well. Thanks for joining us for another Learning with Line 6. I'm Ross, and we're going to do a deep dive into the Grammatico GSG model. Awesome new model from 3.6. If you don't have the latest firmware, go get it. It's awesome. There's a bunch of new stuff in there, but today we're going to focus on the new Grammatico amp, which is beautiful. So let's get the awkward bit out of the way, make sure the levels are cool, voice is fine, this is what my voice sounds like, it's not great but it's the only one I've got, and this is what the guitar sounds like. Hopefully the levels are cool. I'm going to turn this up a little bit in the room because I can. You can hear the voice and the guitar just fine, Jake says, and sounds great. Marvelous. Let's crack on. So, Grammatico GSG, new model for 3.6. It's such a great amp model that you can get lost in quite easily. So we're going to look at some of the controls, some of the tones, or a huge amount of tones, massive versatility that you can get out of this thing. Jake says Sweet Pacifica 2, yes. So as is fairly normal, use the Pacifica 612V. Stunning instrument. The only thing I've done with this, everything's stock except for the pickups, which I've put bare knuckle True Grit pickups in that sound great. So we'll go through various pickups and call tap the bridge and do all that good stuff, because if nothing else, this is a amp model that just, it responds so well to everything, not just pick attack but pickups, volume control, pedals. It does so much stuff, and I've seen a few people on forums kind of going, oh, you know, I'm struggling to dial it in. I'll kind of show you what I've come up with, and we'll go through what it does. So this is the model of the Grammatico GSG. John Grammatico, amazing amp manufacturer. The GSG is sort of as boutique as it gets, and it does a few things remarkably well. Is kind of the thing that it's going for, but I've found some sounds in here that it probably has no business doing because of, you know, my personal tastes in guitar tone, but let's see what we can do. So let's have a little look. So looking at the signal chain, this is what I've got guitar coming in. I've just thrown the Hedgehog D9 in there for fun, because why not? We've got the Grammatico GSG, a bit of delay that I may throw on in a bit, and some string reverb. I often get asked why I put these in parallel, because that's my dry signal. I'm adding the effects to the dry signal rather than the whole thing going through the effects. Hopefully that makes sense. So at the moment, this is what you get when you load the model up. This is absolute stock, bone stock. You'll see these little kind of things here. Hopefully, if you can, let me just check, you can see my mouse when I do that. Please hold. Yeah, you can. Marvelous. I just needed to share that, because that would be weird if you couldn't see that. So these little things here, what I've done, I'm using HX Stomp XL, and I've assigned these switches, which we'll get to in a short while. I've assigned those to foot switches on HX Stomp XL so I can get to them quickly and sort of switch between sounds. So like I say, stock, this is as you would load up in 3.6. This is the cab. It's the new OpenCast super high output speaker in there, 906 dynamic. They're the settings. That's what you get. I'm not going to touch the cab at all. We're going to go through just what we can get out of the amp itself. William says, any info on Podgo getting an update soon? It's a great question. I do not know the answer, I'm afraid, but keep your eyes out. That we're always working on stuff, so at some point there will be an update, I'm sure. But there we go. So position 4 on my Pacifica sounds like it's sort of about as clean as you can get. So what I have found with this particular one, I generally tend to kind of crank the drive a little bit to around 7, and I'll add this bright control. So fairly standard controls: bass, middle, treble, presence, channel volume. You've got your master, you've got these switchies here, which I'll get to in a minute. And first, for kind of amp models within Helix, we actually kind of have what would be a second channel. Whoop, excuse me. You've got your bright switch, you've got these two things here, and then the regular controls. We're not going to touch those because we don't really need to. But straight out of the box, it sounded like that. Now it sounds like this. So, just big, beefy, and juicy. That's generally where I will kind of leave this set now. So just exploring the kind of EQ controls real quick. If you want to kind of scoop that even more. So you can kind of see already kind of how dynamic this thing is. We'll go to the bridge pickup and dig in. It's going to get a little bit spiky, so if you're on headphones, just beware. Kind of back to where we were. Mid control almost kind of tightens it up a little bit as well, that low end. The EQ a little bit like kind of how boogies work, and certainly how models of those amps within Helix work. Everything's really interactive, so it does take a little bit of kind of messing around and finding your sound, but it's really, really worth it. So bridge pickup, humbucker. I'm going to split that to single coil. Sounds like that. Taking the bright switch back to kind of stock now. Kind of, I say you lose the sparkle. Add sparkle if you go to the put the bright switch on, but that's just really nice and warm and mellow. Go on to the first one. And then on 2. It's really nice for that sort of super spanky kind of funk thing. So I'm going to leave it there. So the first kind of thing that we come across that's worth noting is this jazz rock thing. Yes, there's a mid switch. I'm going to skip over that for now. But the jazz rock, now this actually kind of rewires the tone stack. So you kind of bass, middle, treble, presence. It actually, in the real amp, it totally rewires that and gives you a very, very different sound. And it's a lot quieter. So interestingly to my ears, so that's the rock setting, the jazz setting. So if you kind of read up on this amp, you'll notice that settings don't generally tend to work between the jazz and the rock thing. So what you might find works with the rock setting, it won't necessarily work with jazz. So for the jazz, I would crank the channel volume, crank the gain a little bit more, maybe some bass, scoop the mids, and we should, at a guess, be somewhere close to where we were. And we're nowhere near. Even more bass. Less of that, less of that. Something like that. Go back to where we were. So that's the kind of thing we're playing with. If you go from rock to jazz, you will notice a decrease in volume. Turn that down a little bit. There we go. Now that's going to be really useful. Also using predominantly single coils on this, but if you've got a big jazz box or something with more high output pickups, the jazz setting might be where you want to go, and it's going to tighten that low end up that little bit. So if we go to jazz, put the mid switch on, and that's going to give you a mid bump. Kick the front end a little bit. So you could actually stay on the jazz setting, get you kind of the rest of the stuff going, and the mid switch as a kind of a faux rock thing. So it gets you somewhat into that territory. Bigger, fatter, warmer. Rock is a little bit more scooped. Jazz kind of has a bit of a higher mid bump. Hear those mids coming out a little bit more. So we're pretty good there. So when we get to the OD switch side, let's just turn that on. So rock setting. Put the OD on. That's with the core tap on. Now that to me is a little bit kind of fluffy and woolly, and what I have been doing, I kind of get my drive and my level. I can actually afford to go a little bit higher on the actual OD circuit. So straight clean, the OD circuit on. Big and thick, but again, it's kind of a little bit woolly. Put the mid switch on that, it gets a little bit kind of too woolly. But it will sustain for days. In isolation, it's almost kind of fuzzy, but playing with this in a track just along with stuff, everything that you do to this just sits so well. So that's a really nice thing. But I kind of like to kind of give my drive a little bit more, level a little bit higher. So yeah, it's going to cut through in real life kind of context. Now for my taste, that's great for kind of, I guess, jazzier stuff or fusion. Oh, things aren't working today. What I've found is I personally prefer it on the jazz setting. So when I switch to OD, I'll go to the jazz setting. That, to me, with that tight bottom end and a little bit more kind of upper mids, that's much more kind of pleasing as a rhythm tone. And it still sustains, so go back to the rock. You kind of hear that low end. I mean, you would probably not play metal with this, but you can. Go back to the jazz. Put the mid switch on. Where is it there? And that gets to that kind of thick thing quite easily. So that's kind of where I tend to live personally with the OD. You can absolutely crank this drive, and like I said, it is super dynamic. So totally cleans up. That, to me, that's just a great rock tone. Let's pull this drive back just a wee bit. We like that. So that's kind of these switches. So what on earth do these do? So we've got FET boost and PAB, which stands for preamp boost. So the FET boost on the actual amp, and you'll see kind of other amps like this, you've got two inputs. So kind of not like 4-input kind of British EL34 amps. This is a different deal. So one is just straight in regular input. The FET boost actually adds an FET boost to that input, so it's essentially like kind of having a separate boost. Now traditionally you would have to have an AB switch, but we have it on here as an actual switch. So staying on the jazz, put the FET boost on. Enough. So it really does just kind of boost the front end a little bit. If we go back to the rock setting, it's going to add a bit more of a grit to it. Notice I'm not messing with the EQ controls, so that is a little bit flubby. If I wanted to tighten that up, just bring the bass back as you would kind of with any kind of sort of cranked amp. and it cleans that right up. Put the overdrive on with the boost. Give that, go back to jazz. Put the fat boost on front of that. It will just go. Imagine that at volume. With the mid switch, it's just bucket loads of gain. Just real kind of nice and thick, but not kind of terribly flubby. With the rock switch, it's just brutal. Still kind of cleans up pretty well. So that's the FET boost, just gives you, it's just a more. So if we actually go, stay on the rock, turn the OD off. Ever so wonderful position 4. Put the FET boost on, it's this kind of thing. It's that kind of deal. Whether that was used, I couldn't tell you, but it does a great thing. So the preamp boost, there seems to be a little sort of confusion on this as to exactly what it does, but as far as we're aware, it actually removes the tone stack. Now, this is not a unique thing. I know there are other amps that have a switch where you can literally just remove the EQ section, and it gives you a very, very different sound indeed. It will certainly give you a lot more volume because you've not got anything kind of dampening it down. So with PAB on, So if you think there, you've got a bunch of different sounds, sort of drive settings with just a couple of switches. So let's go. So rock. And then, or rock with the FET. Jazz with a FET. Then with a preamp boost. You got all of that. That's just on the clean channel. Go to the distortion channel. Totally inappropriate on this kind of amp. Totally inappropriate, but fun. So just for fun, let's just see how much gain we can actually get out of this. So FET boost on, mid switch on, rock on, gain up full. We'll leave the drive where it is just because everything's on basically. totally go to the jazz. That's one up. A little bit of switch off, we're going a bit more normal. Yeah, fun. Absolutely, should you be doing that on this amp? Maybe not, but why not? Just have fun. It's all about the fun. Tones. Turn up your mic, if possible, thanks. Pixelot, I can probably do that. Give me a mo. Hopefully that's a little bit better. And hopefully the weird phasing thing isn't happening as well this time. Because I think I have done the right buttons. So let me know if that's turned up. AZDH, what does pulling the delay and reverb down to the lower line do? So mentioned earlier, in case you missed it, so I always put delays and reverbs in a parallel path because that's my dry signal. So if I turn that off, that's my dry signal. Turn that on. You can still hear the dry sound, but I'm adding the reverb or delay to that. So there we go. Bugster says, how flexible is this amp as a pedal platform, especially with more finicky pedals? I'm glad you asked, Buckster. So if we go to rock setting on clean. So the pedal I've thrown in just for fun is the Hedgehog D9, which is a notoriously horrible pedal to get right. You normally have to have the tone all the way down. It really likes kind of more British amps. It tends to sit very well with those. Any amount of gain or volume, it can just get so fizzy. So let's make sure everything is off here. Yes it is. So if we turn that on, very finicky pedal, you get that. No, we're good. So actually, I'm going to go back up to the stock. So yeah, it does a pretty good job of that. Let's just for fun, I've not tried a fuzz in front of it, so let's do the fuzz face thing. I do that and that. Now, true test, anything kind of with that scooped mid kind of tone generally doesn't like fuzz face style circuits, so let's see if it does. Beautiful. So this a little bit like my favorite amp in here, the Cali Texas Channel 1 and 2, but Channel 1, great kind of pedal platform. It just takes any pedals so well, and you can do a lot kind of with them. You can absolutely smash the front end of the amp and it will just work and everything sounds great. This seems to do that as well. Which is good. So we can try a couple of other pedals. So let's go really expensive with the Minotaur. Sounds great through a lot of things. The Top Secret OD, another one that in and of itself is kind of fairly scooped. So this will be a true test. Sounds great. We're getting into flubby territory there, so go back to the jazz. great job. Valve driver is another funny one. Straight out. Brilliant. Yeah, so Buxter, as a pedal platform, it's marvellous. You can totally kind of mess around with this and get a lot more out of it. Like I say, I've not touched the cab. I've done very, very little, if nothing, with the EQ, just for effect. So that's a million things that you can get out of this amp. What I've found for, and again, we're talking about my personal tastes because it's all about me for this. For the clean stuff, I'll go with a rock tone just because it's more kind of me. And then for the dirty, I'll switch over to the jazz and turn the OD switch. That's for me personally. If I want to kind of thicken it up, I'll hit the mid switch. Plenty more gain, got the FET boost. There. Preamp boost. Just sustained for days. Oh, there we go. Hey! Beautiful. That, just so you know, in here I'm monitoring with a pair of HS7s. It's not offensively loud. The neighbors aren't going to come and beat my door down anytime soon. So yeah, feedback in this room at that level is pretty good. I've not yet gigged this amp. I've got one coming up tomorrow, so I might kind of have to swap out the Cali Texas to see what happens. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is kind of a little bit of it, really. So something to bear in mind, jazz and rock, absolutely, there's a big volume dip when you go to jazz, but that could be used for example, if you're switching guitars. So you go into a higher output humbucker guitar from a single coil guitar with low output pickups. Single coils can go on the rock, humbuckers could go on the jazz, and that will kind of level them up a little bit. Obviously, you can change all of this with snapshots and get a million different sounds if you really, really wanted to. The FET boost, depending on which mode you're at, can get you a little bit gritty. It can be quite a significant volume boost because it is front end. The preamp boost, again, depending on where you are and your settings, can give you a significant volume lift. The drive channel or the OD switch, I generally kind of crank the level around 5. That seems to be a nice balance. And wherever you kind of sit on the gain, for me, just kind of set the drive right down. Not that much. So kind of wherever you set this, it's going to sound really good, even kind of cranked. You get the OD level kind of above that. It's going to get interesting and very, very loud. Something to bear in mind with the drive, like I said when I started, these are all very, very interactive. So if I take let's take that down. So the drive is kind of like your clean channel volume, I guess. which is why when you crank this, it's more flubby, so it's more like you're cranking the actual amp. So you would need to kind of lower bass to off. Kind of thing. If I add the OD to that, it's probably going to get a little quite brutal. Let's just add the FET real quick. Just playing around now, just having fun. It's kind of a good old school rock and roll. That sounds pretty cool. If we take that off and put the drive on, it's probably going to be pretty airy. Oh, that's shred territory. Come on. Drive all the way up. Interesting. Let's go on jazz. That's interesting. Well, the jazz is actually beefier than the rock. There's not a great deal in it. I'm being silly now. Yeah, okay, we're just going off on a tangent now, but it's still fun. So there we go. Hopefully that's going to give you some kind of idea of what you can get out of this thing. Yes, there's a bunch of different controls. Yes, they all interact with each other, but I mean, as you can see, when I started, I didn't really do anything with the EQ. I cranked the drive a little bit, which is kind of like the input kind of gain, just because I like it a little bit, just right on the hair of kind of just breaking up. For me, that takes pedals really well and just gives single coils a certain something. The default is rock, rock for clean, all day long for me, jazz for dirty stuff. OD, I'll boost the level a little bit, just kind of match the levels slightly, and give it some welly on the OD because it cleans up great. You can use your volume control and it just works. Just check the comments. Flux says, our model sounds amazing, very tight and rich, solid, smooth. Yes, it sounds wonderful. And if you've got regular real pedals that you use, not any kind of boxes within Helix, it takes those great too. So yes, as a pedal platform, you can just use that and any external drives or compressors, EQs, whatever that you've got, and it will do that as well. So yeah, like I was saying, just kind of, you know, have a mess around. Don't worry too much about the EQ. For me, I would concentrate on, depending on your guitar, maybe kind of go up to the 1 on the bright switch. If it's particularly dark, maybe 2. Leave the EQ where it is, leave the cab where it is. The big kind of tonal ones for me are the jazz and the rock. That mid boost can get real kind of gnarly and too fat on the rock. The preamp boost absolutely tightens everything up and gives you, in some cases, quite a significant volume boost. So you could use that for a volume boost. With that said, kind of, I was playing around earlier, just playing along with the backing track, and just had, like I say, all these controls kind of assigned to foot switches on my Stomp XL, and pretty much wherever I went, it just fit beautifully within the track. And it wasn't like a significant volume bump or I didn't lose too much level. Everything just worked. So try that as well. Just find a backing track on YouTube, play along, and have fun. It sounds great. Paul says, as a cork sniffer, I wonder how it sounds with a hyper metal pedal. Probably awesome. I like where you're going. Try it. Let me know. That could be fun. So there we go. The Grammatico GSG. I saw someone earlier ask for this to go up on custom tone. I can absolutely do that, but yeah, there's nothing kind of saved in here. I've just messed around with the controls, but hopefully you've got some indication of what you can do with this amp. You can do a million things. You can get super tight kind of, maybe not chuggy rock or metal, but you know, certainly classic rock, certainly hair, shreddy stuff. You can totally get kind of big, thick, juicy Andy Timmonsy kind of things. Obviously, all the kind of fusion and jazz stuff. Pretty much anything you want. And what you can't get, you add a pedal. And you're golden. So, for me, it could be the ultimate amp in Helix, maybe. Don't know yet. We're going to play. We're going to keep playing with it. But thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to do more of these, as we always do, same time, same place next week. You have one of the other guys giving you some delightful information. But again, thank you for tuning in. We will see you again soon, and I'll keep an eye on the comments. So any more questions, fire away, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. See you soon.